Hello, my friends, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm going to possibly bounce around just a little bit today just because of the topic I'm talking about and the articles I have and all that other fun stuff, I want to try to make my thoughts make sense, and sometimes they don't. So the first thing I have here is an article from The Gamer by Mr. Mike Drucker titled, "Why Even Make Video Games Anymore?" The amusing thing here is that on the tab for the site in my browser, it actually says the games industry is not for developers. So I don't know if there was a retitle in there or what, but yeah, obviously we're starting off on a negative foot here. And it's understandable. You see where he starts. We've got another week, another massive layoff. This time a company that makes one of the biggest games on Earth, Destiny 2. Oh, and this follows that very same company laying off 100 people in 2023. As we've seen over the last couple years, even working for a well-regarded legendary developer is not enough to save yourself. Well, there's a number of reasons for that, but let's see where he's going. And while we're finally getting sequels to series like Dragon Age, let's not forget BioWare also fired one of its most experienced writers. A writer, it's worth noting, who literally created some of the most important lore of the series. So again, why even make video games anymore? He says the love of the game is no longer a good reason, which I strongly disagree. The love of the game is still the best reason. Making money is, of course, a good reason as well. The combination of the two is a fantastic reason. But one thing at a time. So I know people make games because they love them, not because there's money in it. First of all, you should tell that to corporate executives who make these decisions because, Buster, they are not on board with your theory. Yes and no. I mean, the problem is the corporate executives aren't the ones making the games. They're the people paying people to make the games. And there's a whole discussion to be had about corporate executives and the way they interfere with gaming in general. The way they interfere with companies and output in general. There's a huge conversation to be had there. But not today. Those suits would never accept less pay or worse working conditions because it's an industry they love. No, but again, they're not the people making the game. They're just not. They may pay for the game. They may even love gaming. But their profession is to make money. Their profession is to invest where they think they will make money, not making games. That's two entirely different things. That's only something workers have to hear again and again and again. You think the corporate executive who killed Tango Gameworks did it because they cared about good video games so much? You think the massive conglomerates shutting studio after studio are doing it so we can only get 10 out of 10 masterpieces? Oh, so far he's right. No, obviously they're not. They don't care about any of those things. They don't care about, well, they do care about the quality of the gaming in and of the idea of they're getting the worth of their dollar back from the game. Now, there's a lot of other things that go into these decisions. But so far, not wrong other than to attack these people as if they create games, as if they actually think of game creation at all. These are money bags. These are people who give money to make money. That's their entire role. They are not developers. They are not publishers. They are investors. And if you accept investors, unfortunately, that comes with some strings attached. Perhaps you believe that these unending layoffs are an economic necessity. Interest rates have changed. Companies overspent during the pandemic, which are actually true things. But not only did they overspend, they overhired. Sure, fine, let's roll with that. Follow-up question. Who made these financial decisions during the pandemic? Because people talk about corporate financial decisions like they're natural disasters and not something controlled by real humans. Well, of course they are. But again, I'm going to have to skip part of this because otherwise I'm just going to be saying the same things over and over and over again. Corporate structure sucks. I think that's something that most people, regardless of their preference of economic theory, can agree with. Corporate structures can absolutely suck. Now, is there a time and place for them? Yes. But there's ways that they are used wrong. There's reasons that businesses that are top heavy in the corporate types have a tendency to go down. And the funny thing is a lot of these people being fired are the DEI activist types, because they're finding right now with a tighter economy that those people aren't worth keeping on. Now, yes, there are a lot of writers, musicians, producers, as he says, support staff that are getting laid off because they're the easy ones to cut. They don't sign these big deals that these guys do. And it sucks. It does. I do not like seeing people lose their jobs, especially not people who do a good job at something. But unfortunately, when you don't own your own business and you don't own your own company, these are things you have to deal with. You trade the safety of, you trade the more security, because it's never going to be completely secure. You trade the greater security for the taking the less risks. When you open your own development studio, when you open your own business, there is so many more risks involved than there is in being an employee. Yes, if you are an employee, your job could be cut because of somebody else's poor decisions. However, you are not likely to lose your entire life savings, your home, everything, because the business went down in flames. You can find a new job. He says, now, I'm not saying nobody should make games. I love games. A lot of my friends are in the industry. A lot of my friends have also lost jobs while creating financially successful products, not just games that underperform, games that hit their milestones, but folks still ended up losing their jobs because they had little to no labor protections. Side note, that's one of the nice things about unions. While unions don't make it impossible to fire people, at the least they can make it a lot more difficult and expensive for companies to just dump staff to look good on a quarterly report. But honestly, unions aren't that protecting, and they have a tendency to take money from the people who are working and end up being just as top heavy as the corporations they're fighting against. But we're not going to have, again, that discussion. You might say the solution is just to go indie. Sure, that's worked great for a lot of people, but it's also worked terribly for a lot of people. And that is where the challenge is. If you want to work in a stable condition for a stable company, you are trading off the fact that you aren't going to have to take a lot of risks. Yes, you get to have your fun and, well, I guess not have your fun. You get to do your job part. You get to do the part that you're experienced with, but you are at the same time more expendable than the people who actually own the business and have more of their actual worth tied up in it. It doesn't seem fair, but honestly, life isn't fair. So you're just going to have to deal with that. We have confirmation bias from games like Undertale and Stardew Valley. Just maintain a day job while you slowly make the game you want. Isn't a sustainable business plan for everybody? No, nor is everybody able to it. But that is why the people who succeed like that succeed so well, because that is something they truly love and truly put their hearts into. Unfortunately, there are some people who, while they might have talent, don't have the same drive. And if they don't have that same drive, they're not going to make the same heights. And they don't deserve to, because they're not going to put in the same effort. I will probably get flack from somebody for saying that. But the fact is if you are not willing to put yourself into something like that, if you're not willing to push it, to take the risks, to take the challenges and deal with them, then you don't deserve the same success. You do not. I don't care about anything else. If you're not willing to put in the effort, you don't deserve the reward. Why should people want to make games? What reason do talented people have to spend their lives perfecting their craft if they're going to be kicked out the door anyway? Software engineers could probably make more money programming bank equipment. Artists could probably make more money doing design work for pharmaceutical ads. Sure, they might not be as exciting, but at least those jobs aren't punishing hardworking people for doing what they love. Would you rather be bored and paid well and appreciated, or excited and constantly terrified you'll never work again? Those are the trade-offs, folks. That is, in fact, the trade-offs. You do not get the constant comfort without some kind of trade-off. There is no perfect solution in this. There is no world in which you get to live that perfect life where you don't have to deal with any kind of potential fear of losing your job. I mean, even in those other places, if you are still making the best thing, but for some reason something happens in that pharmaceutical company or in that bank or whatever, and they need people to cut, you're still the first people to get cut. The difference is you're not then doing something you love at the same time. it sucks, but it's true. He says, to be fair, I'm painting with a pretty broad brush, and there are people who will stick around in terrible conditions because they love games that much. And yes, there are companies that reward loyalty while rarely laying off employees. A lot of those companies that reward loyalties while rarely laying off employees are companies that are smart about where they put their money. Most of them are bound by strict Japanese labor laws, but still, they do exist, including in the West. I've worked in television most of my adult life, and the vibe can also be the same as many game companies. You don't like this bad thing happening? Well, someone else waiting in line behind you would be fine with the bad thing happening. And it creates a revolving door of talent where the inexperienced people either get no support to do their jobs, so they get fired, or their contributions to the company raise the employee's value, and so they get fired. I'm sorry, and this is going to sound cruel, but if you are in that situation, quit. If you are in a situation where you feel you are unappreciated, quit. Do it. Yes, the company might get somebody in to replace you, and that might suck for that somebody else. But in the end, there's only one person running your life, and that's you. It'll be hard. It'll suck. You might have to give up some things. You might have to live more simply. You might have to live off of potato soup for months on end while you barely scratch by making your rent because you had to get a waitress job or a waiter job or work at a restaurant as a fry cook. If it's something you really want to do and you want to do it right, then you're just going to have to suffer. I hate to say it, but that's life, folks. Now, I'm not even touching in on the fun times that video game workers have when weirdos online get bad about some fictional character's chin or a robot's ass. You know what? Maybe that's because people don't like your design, and that's another one of those sucky parts about working in a public-facing place, because you're going to have to deal with that. If you make something you love and nobody else likes it, you're just going to have to deal with that. I've made plenty of things I love and put out, and people either not said anything about it or they hated it. I have people come into these videos and say they don't like things like what I've said or whatever. It's part of life. I'm sorry, but it is. Because video game workers are far closer to the ground than the business executives. They're the ones who get the most harassment for whatever grift takes center stage that week. I'm sure being a character designer is a blast every time some podcaster in his 50s send people to attack them for not giving some digital broad perfect gazongas. Imagine this going on and mergers and acquisitions making the future of your career a giant Riddler-sized question mark. Well, two things there. Most of the time, people aren't sending anybody to attack. They might call attention to it, and other people then choose to attack. But nobody I know in general says, hey, go harass these people. They might say, message their company or don't buy the game. But no one I am willing to follow and keep tabs on says, go harass these people, because what an asshole thing to do. I mean, for one, it doesn't fix the problem. Most of us want to fix the problem. We don't want to keep looking at less than great characters or something, but we don't really want to go about attacking directly at individuals. We'd like the companies to fire them most of the time, but that's a separate issue. Actually, no, it's part of the same issue. I apologize. It is, in fact, I'm trying to make it sound nicer, but, I guess if I'm going to be hard and fast about it, no, it's, we don't want to attack the people. We do want to kind of attack their job, not necessarily in that way. We don't want their job to go away. We just want somebody else to have that job. Somebody who is going to actually listen to gamers and what they want. And while I do believe to some degree game developing should be about developing what you want to see, because it is a product as well as a art piece, you have to design a product that people want to buy. And if your customer base is unhappy and you're not willing to change, then you don't get to sit there and cry because nobody bought it. You don't, because it's not how it works. People don't just buy your stuff because you made a thing. It's like thinking people should just watch these videos because I made a video. Would that be great? Yeah, it'd be fantastic if everybody had to watch these videos. No, actually it wouldn't. It would be terrible. I don't want people forced to watch me because I know I'm probably a pretty acquired taste. Then he says at this point, the only people who are safe in the video game industry are CEOs who wear ill-fitting biker jackets and developers who seem only to take photos with Jeff Keighley. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of independent studios doing just fine. We should be on our knees thanking our lucky stars that anybody with an ounce of sanity is willing to make video games anymore. In the last year alone, this industry has chewed up and spit out so much incredible talent that it's wild to think a reasonable person, let alone a team of incredible workers, would still be willing to develop interactive entertainment. Those folks shouldn't consider themselves the lucky ones who still have jobs. They shouldn't be willing to take crap because someone is in line behind them. No, I agree with that part. You shouldn't just take crap because someone's in line behind you. If you are put in a position where you feel like you're being cycled through and you don't want to be there, leave. Seriously, unless you are doing something you truly love and you think that the suffering is worth it, and you have to really think that way. If you genuinely feel that the suffering is worth it and it is bettering your life and letting you do something you want to do, then you stay. If not, if you are even one iota beneath that, then you leave. Because there are other jobs, even in video game design. There are. They deserve protections and working conditions that reflect the quality of what they produce and massive paydays they bring their corporate overlords. Making a video game should be the coolest thing someone gets to do in their life, not an eternal nightmare of crunch and unemployment. So on the other side of this person asks a question. Why even make video games anymore? And I feel like somebody has the answer other than, what I said, which, I'm just some moronic middle-aged woman sitting in my house yelling at an article. So what do I know? It's not like I'm a game developer. It's not like what I do is so amazing that people want to throw money at me or anything. So Games Radar by Khan Saren. Years before Baldur's Gate 3 blew everyone away, Larian's CEO nearly quit the industry over publisher pressure on the Divinity series. So it sounds to me like if somebody knows the answer to the question of why continue developing video games, Sven would know. In an interview with PC Gamer, Larian's CEO and Baldur's Gate 3 director Sven Vinik, I hope I have that right, reminisced about the studio's previous RPG projects that paved the way for its eventual record-breaking success last year, recalling arguably the team's lowest point with 2009's Divinity 2 Ego Draconis. Divinity 2 Ego Draconis was the third game in the series, coming right after Divine Divinity and Beyond Divinity. The studio got much better at naming things thereafter, and Vic remembers that it could have been a breakthrough game if the stars had aligned differently because it was ambitious and had lots of stuff going on, but none of it was really well done. Everything was really the product of being too ambitious with too small a team and not having enough resources, and then the publisher insisting on releasing it when it wasn't ready. Venk explained, though the game had quite a few publishers attached to different regions, so it's hard to tell which he was referring to. Either way, the stressful experience made Vink think about quitting at that point. As we all know, Vink's time in the industry didn't stop there. His time with publishers did, though. You can't go from failure to failure to failure, he said. You've got to do something right. This is famously when I dropped publishers. Larian instead turned to self-publishing and crowdfunding for its future games. Despite looking back on things with a bad taste on his mouth, Ego Draconis was actually pretty well received in relation to other studios' biggest flops. And an improved Dragon Knight Saga re-release only bumped up review scores even further. Probably a precursor to how the team supported Baldur's Gate 3 so extensively post-release. So his answer is kind of the same as mine. Be willing to take those risks into your own hands and guide your own future as opposed to relying on the safety net of others. Because as long as you're doing that, you have to deal with the strings that come attached. And some of those strings really suck. But I know not everyone is wired for that life. Not everyone can handle having that much responsibility for themselves placed squarely on their own shoulders. But in the end, if that's what you want, if you really want something like that, you absolutely have to be the one to drive to get it. And if you don't deserve the same rewards. That is a problem we see in general today, where people see these other people getting these amazing outcomes with the stuff they do and ignoring all the work they did to get there and thinking, why isn't the path there easier for me? While it would be great if we could, in fact, make the path easier, part of making that path easier is letting the people who want to make it like that succeed. Larian sounds like an amazing studio to work for. I think that is one step up. For every Larian studio, if we could get more Larian type studios out there, that would be amazing. Because that would be amazing for everybody, not just gamers, not just developers, but everybody together. Because then, developers get what they want, gamers get what they want, everybody makes money, and everybody's happy. But I suppose that's too simple of a solution. And honestly, I know this is the real world. You're always going to have the people who want to use others to the point that they're barely seem human. That because they don't see them as humans, they see them as output machines. But if I was going to sum up my thoughts here in a nice little package, achieving a dream isn't easy. If you are passionate about something, sometimes you're going to have to work in absolutely terrible conditions. If you want to pursue that passion, you're going to have to go through some serious blood, sweat, and tears issues. You're going to have to struggle. You're going to have times where you have barely enough to eat. You're going to have times where you're too tired to even sleep because you've been working 2 jobs to get through to the point where you want to be. And those kinds of sacrifices don't always come with the greatest rewards. There are always going to be stories of people who fail, people who come out in the middle, and people who come out on the top end. But when it comes to passion and trying, you have to do it, or you have no one to blame but yourself. While it would be nice if the world would cater to us and set out an easier road, it doesn't happen. And you don't get amazing results at the end of a gentle slope, not generally. Most of the time, the people who fight the hardest to do these things are the people who make the most amazing things. That's why so many great games came from originally just startup little companies who are struggling to survive and put everything they could into this last-ditch effort and made these games that people love for literally generations at this point. Without that, you don't get the same thing, and it shows. When you're talking about something just made because you want to be a game designer, but you don't want to be a risk taker, it shows. I don't know. Maybe this is all rambly and weird, but let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. If you really liked it, you can feel free to share it around, and I will catch you later.